Thanks for joining us this evening in regular scheduled council meeting of the Park City City Council on January 22nd, 2019. Dee, would you call the roll?
John Lynn
Present.
George Glover.
Here.
Vin Salcetta. Here. Melvin Kerr.
Here.
Tom Jones.
Here.
George Capps.
Here.
Brandy Bailey.
Here.
Jim Schrader.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Tonight, Councilman Glover is going to lead us in the invocation, and we have a member from the Boy Scout Troop 579 that's going to lead us in the pledge. If everybody please stand.
Let's pray. Father God, we just thank you for tonight. We thank you for just the unity of our council, and we just pray now that we seek you through wisdom, guidance, and discernment and doing the business of the people of Park City. We pray for provision for the folks of Park City, whatever their needs may be, a job or finances, whatever their needs may be, Lord. And we just ask these things in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Jim?
I move that we approve the agenda.
And George?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 8-0. We don't have anything for awards or presentations until later this council meeting. So we'll go ahead and we'll move on to public forum. And we have Jan McDonald with Park City Pride. Jan?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. To start with, Pride has a new chairperson. Tanya Smith, would you stand up? She's going to lead us this year. But the reason I'm here is in your packets, you will find a form that is the resolution that asks the City of Park City to work and support Pride Image projects for the year. And we need that signed and we send it into the State Pride organization. And that's all I have.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Jan. Appreciate it. That was it for public forum, and we'll move on to staff reports, and we'll start with our city administrator, Jack Whitson. Jack?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is going to be very short. There was a lot of emails and discussions out and about swimming pool grants and stuff. I want to clarify that. That particular grant from the state is what they call a CDBG grant. And in order to be eligible, you have to have they call it a LMI, low and moderately income level, less than 51%. And they based this on the last census, which was 2010. Park City, they sent me back some information. Park City is only 32.43, well below the 51%. So we would not be eligible for that grant. There's other ways to become eligible. You can take an area of your city, do a salary survey of that area, and if it falls within the guidelines, then you could build a swimming pool in that particular area. I've done these myself, St. Mary's and a couple other places, and it's very difficult to get people to give you their income levels. Almost impossible. So that's what there is on the swimming pool. Since this is my possibly last council meeting, unless I come back and jaw on you about something under public forum or something, I want to say it's been a pleasure working, especially with this group here. A very diverse council, a lot of diverse ideas, so I think you're going to do great things. And I appreciate all your support of me and just wish you the best of luck. That's the end of my report. If anybody's got any questions, I'd be more than glad to answer anything.
All right. John?
How many meetings have you done, Jack?
How many meetings? Oh, gosh. Let's see.
I figured you'd know the number. That's okay. I was just giving you a hard time.
I never counted them, but 23 years worth of them, so one more than that, probably.
Well, thank you for all you've done for Park City. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, George?
Well, Jack and I go back a long ways. We go back before the city was a city. It was a improvement district. And, I was part of the self-help group, and Jack came along and he helped us. Neither one of us had any gray hair. I'm gonna, and I still miss our budget battles. We had some good times working on the budgets and stuff. And, my memories are fond. And we'll miss you, Jack. And you've done a ton, I know that.
Thank you, George.
George?
Yeah, I also want to let you know, Jack, how much just what you've meant to me and the help that you've given me the time that I've been on the council, and I appreciate that. Just the inspiration that you've been, but also to the citizens of Park City. I'm sure that they're thankful for all you've done, so I just want to wish you happy retirement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ben?
My turn, Jack.
Okay.
I'm the new guy here to the town and to the council, but you've been very instrumental in helping me get my bearings, and I appreciate all that you've done just in my short time on the council and helping me adjust, but that's only a small part of what you've done for the city that probably can never be really tallied up. And so very thankful for your sacrifice and really just sacrifice for our town and for those of us that sit up here to have the knowledge available at our fingertips when we need it. And so best wishes in retirement. I look forward to you coming back and jawing with us here a little bit. I also look forward to picking your brain in the future for more wisdom. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Brandy?
Jack, I just want to say thank you for pulling some information on that CDBG grant, first of all. That's helpful. And then second, I wish you well in retirement. Good luck. Thank you for everything you've given to us. Your knowledge, anytime I needed some history of the city or anything, I was able to come to you, and so I'm going to really miss that knowledge. But you're just down the street, and I'm sure I'll hear about you through my husband every day.
Yeah, I'm planning on keeping him busy. And my bank account low.
I just want to thank Jack for everything he's done too, and I'm not going to go on because I could talk for about an hour about history with Jack and Scouts and City and other things, so I just appreciate you being around, Jack.
Thanks.
Melvin?
I want to thank you too also for everything you've done for us and for me and all the information and everything, and how you know how to hunt out them good barbecue joints too, and so anyway, thank you.
All right, thank you. That's it this evening for city administrators, so we'll move on to our Director of Public Works. Eric?
Mayor, Council. Just to give you an update in the Parks Department, the basketball court, the pad is complete, 2 basketball goals are installed, and we do have the benches as well. We're just going to have to wait until we figure out where they go. Street Department installed a new solar flashing beacon for the southbound traffic, hydraulic and Ravenna crosswalk. We also installed a new camera system for the eastbound traffic at 61st and Broadway. And we also conducted numerous pothole repairs citywide. Water Department, 2 new residential service connections were installed. And we also repaired a water main break at Randall and Church. And just to give you an update, I don't know if you heard, but we had a water main break this morning, hit by a contractor at the FMI building. Right now, only 3 facilities are out of water, FMI being one of them, WasteLink is another, and there's one other address on Broadway. They're currently working that right now. I just made a phone call right before this meeting, and they had to cut the concrete a little bit larger than expected. The break is larger than they expected. And on my way home, I'm going to go ahead and double check that hole and see if they got it done. They will be working throughout the night to get the water back up.
Never happens when it's 70 degrees and nice out, does it?
Never.
Tom?
And that's why the water pressure dropped this morning?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I know it's still not back up full speed, but it's back up.
It's getting there.
Okay. Thanks.
Melvin?
The basketball court, is that over on Grove, is it?
It's in Boston Park and over in Grove.
Okay.
Yes.
And hey, thank you for clean the streets off too, Saturday.
No
Sunday.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, on
Did a good
top-
job.
Yeah, we did 40 tons of sand salt mix that night, and then Saturday and Sunday, and we're probably going to do a little bit more tonight. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, Ben?
And I just wanted to echo that. Thank you very much for all the hard work from our public works employees Friday night, especially getting those snow plows out. I saw them out as I was driving home, plowing the streets, keeping us safe, so I appreciate that for all that they do.
I'll let them know.
All right, thank you, Eric, appreciate that. That was all for staff reports this evening, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion? Jim?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
And John?
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 8-0. Dee, how much time do you need for recess?
Just a couple minutes.
All right. I would request that the council make a motion that we recess for 4 minutes so we can move in as the Kansas Land Bank for the city of Park City. John?
I'll make a motion we do exactly that for approximately 4 minutes.
Okay. Tom?
Second.
Got a motion and second. Not seeing any discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes 8-0, and it is 7-11. We're going to reconvene now as the City of Park City Council, and we'll move on to new business, item A, which is consider the Kansas Pride Program Entry Government Resolution to the 2019 for Pride Representative. Ben?
Sure. I'd like to say thank you to Pride for all that they do. They do a great work in our community, from their Christmas organization for food donations to their movies in the park to their eats and beats. They do a lot for our town that sometimes we don't see and don't sometimes overlook. And so it's a great organization for anybody in the community to get plugged into. And so I'd happily make a motion here that we approve this.
Tom?
Second that.
Do you have the resolution number?
1021-2019.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. Dee, would you call the roll?
John Lanier.
Aye.
George Glover.
Aye.
Ben Salcetta.
Aye.
Melvin Kerr.
Aye.
Tom Jones.
Aye.
George Katz.
Aye.
Randy Bailey.
Aye.
Jim Schrader.
Aye. And that resolution passes 8-0. And that will take us to item B, which is a public hearing for the issuance of taxable industrial revenue bonds in the amount not to exceed $2.6 million to Apex Trucking. And we'll open this public hearing at 7:15. Travis, did you want to speak to this?
Move this down a little bit. Mayor and the council, I want to thank you for letting us come before you again. And Jack, I want to congratulate you on your services and thank you for all the help you've given us to get through this process. We were before the council back April, May and requested the 1.5 million. With the building that we were constructing in the property, we were kind of on the notion it was about $25 per square foot. Well, right now we're about at $50 a square foot as far as in the construction. So therefore, that's why we're back before you. I did give you kind of a print. It had the site plan and also had the building layout design. And if you go down 61st Street back west of Broadway, you can see the building going up. So we're proceeding with the construction of the building and to get hopefully moved in by May, June is our anticipated date of being able to move in. The tax abatement cost benefit analysis that was done for the previous meeting when we come before you actually exceeded what we did request. It even fell within the realm of our 2.6 million. So it was basically just redone to be resubmitted, but there was no changes in any of the figures. So we just hope that you look at it and grant us the 2.6 on our new building. So if I can answer any questions, I'd be more than glad to.
Does anybody have any questions? Does anybody from the public wish to speak on this? I'll ask one more time if anybody wants to speak on this issue. Mr. Eck, do you have anything you want to add to it?
No, I'm fine.
All right.
Thank you.
So we'll go ahead and close this public hearing at 7:18 p.m. And we will move on to item C, which is consider an amendment of the resolution number 988-2018, determining the advisability of issuing taxable industrial revenue bonds to Apex Trucking. Tom?
I would make that motion.
Ben?
Second.
Dee, do you have that resolution number?
1019-2019.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. Dee, would you call the roll?
John O'Hare.
Aye.
George Glover.
Aye.
Ben Salcetta.
Aye.
Melvin Kerr.
Aye.
Tom Jones.
Aye.
George Capps.
Aye.
Brandy Bailey.
Aye.
Jim Schrader.
Aye. All right, and that resolution passes 8-0. That brings us to item D, which is consider an amendment and payment in lieu of tax agreement for 2014A and 2014B Murdoch Properties IRBs. Travis, did you want to? Good.
Good evening. I'm Dominic Eck. I'm with Gilmore and Bell. Sarah sends her regards. She's out of town right now. Tonight, we have a resolution to authorize the execution of an amendment to the pilot agreement that was originally entered into when the bonds were issued. It was recently discovered that the executed agreement did not fully reflect the agreement of the parties at the time. And so this resolution just authorized the corrected agreement to accurately state what the parties had agreed to. If you have any questions on the resolution, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, does anybody, Tom?
No, I don't have any questions. I was going to make a motion. I was going to make a motion. We approve this amended payment in lieu of taxes agreement for 2014A and 2014B Murdoch Properties Projects, IRBs.
Okay, is there a second? Jim?
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. Dee, would you give me the resolution number?
1020-2019.
Okay, not seeing any further discussion. Dee, would you call the roll?
John O'Hare.
Aye.
George Glover.
Aye.
Ben Salcetta.
Aye.
Melvin Kerr.
Aye.
Tom Jones.
Aye.
George Capps.
Aye.
Brandy Bailey.
Aye.
Jim Schrader.
Aye. And that resolution passes 8-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That brings us to item E, which is receive the Land Bank's Treasurer's Annual Report to the governing body as required by KSA 12-5903. Dee?
Putting on my newly appointed Land Bank Treasurer hat. There are a few things that the Land Bank statutes require to be reported annually to the governing body by January 31st. The first one is the audit report. The last audit we had was the year of 2017, and there were no financial transactions in the land bank at that time by the end of that year, so I don't have anything to report on that. The second thing is receipts and disbursements showing all property transactions for 2018. I placed in your packets a receipts and disbursements register. It's basically a checkbook, more or less. To quickly recap, we received proceeds from the sale of 37 lots in the High Ridge Second Edition to Elite USA. And out of that, we made 2 payments to the city. We paid the city for the delinquent specials, and we also paid the city for future specials under the terms of the sale agreement. There was also a small transaction because of those 2 payments we made, we had to amend the budget, which requires publication of notice hearings, so the fee for that was charged to the land bank. And there will be one more very small amount posted to 2018 for interest. We don't have that amount yet, but it's going to be very small. The balance at this time is $20,233.18. The next thing is the inventory of the property. I've also placed a copy of that in your packet as well. It's 2 pages. We started out the year with 174 lots. We ended the year with 137 after the sale of those 37. A copy of this is required by statute to be published by January 31st, so I sent that to Ark Valley News to be published this Thursday. It's a smaller, condensed version, but it has the same information on it. Any questions?
Does anybody have any questions for Dee? Not seeing any. Thank you very much. All right, that brings us to item F, which is consider the annual review of the water rates. I think everybody knows that it's that time of year where if we take no action, we automatically see a 3% increase according to our ordinance. So I wanted to bring that back, and we have a couple of recommendations for you. Dee?
Jack had just suggested that I mentioned to you that we received notice that Wichita has raised their water and sewer by 4.5%. I placed a preliminary revenue and expenditure report in your packet that shows for water and sewer. The top portion of that is the water department. The 2018 revenues were higher than 2017 and the expenses were lower. This is preliminary at this point, but we do have a nice number so far, but keep in mind there's more to be posted. We're recommending no increase in these rates.
George.
Well, I move that we accept their recommendations and don't raise the rates.
On the water rates, right?
Water rates, correct.
Okay, Ben?
I second that.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 8-0. That brings us to item G, which is considering the annual review of the sewer rates. D?
Same spreadsheet. The lower half is the sewer department. Somewhat of the same story. The revenues are higher, the expenses are lower. Again, it's very preliminary. There's still items left to be posted. It's my understanding the CCUA will be requiring or be needing a sewer plant expansion in the next couple of years. Due to that, we are recommending a 3% increase in both the base rate and the user charges.
And if everybody remembers right, last year we looked at the same thing. And actually, when we were projecting capacity limits at the plant, we were looking that we probably were going to have to start construction within 2019 so that we could take care of the load coming into the plant. So we made a small adjustment last year to keep us prepared. As the CCUA continues to monitor what's going on we did some more calculations, and with the usage over this year, it's kind of bumped us out maybe a couple of more years where we're not looking at immediate construction that we would need to start in 2019 or 2020, but possibly 2021. So a small increase here to continue to build just offsets. I think when we did some rough numbers on that, we were looking at an $8 increase for everybody with the new plant expansion cost. So if we can stair step it a little before we get to that point, that's kind of what we'd like to do. Just tee it up a little bit. Does anybody have any questions? George.
Well, I just have a statement. You know, I took a pretty good hike in my property taxes due to us raising the mill levy. And, you know, to be honest with you, I'm one of these seniors on a fixed income, and everything is hitting me this year. Everything is going up, but not my income. And, you know, pretty soon you're nickel and dime to death. And, you know, I'd like to think about it. Honestly, I'd like to think about it.
Okay. Anybody else? Brandy.
The CCUA, we're going to have to do the sewer plant expansion, and it's going to hit one way or another. If it's an $8 fee in 2021 and we increase fees $8 in 2021 to cover this, I'd rather take a small increase each year to get us to that $8. So maybe in 2021, we're only seeing $1 or so, a couple dollar raise or increase instead of a big $8 increase. So with that, I want to make a motion that we approve the 3% increase in the sewer base rates and usage fees to be effective on the February 2019 billing.
Okay, John?
I'll second.
George?
What dollar amount is that?
Approximately $35,000.
No,
Per household.
per household.
At the end, it will be 8. I can't tell you per household on this. I can tell you what it is on the base rates. Will be 79 cents for in city, $1.18 out city, and then it's 1 cent per 100 gallons of water over 3,000.
So that I don't get a set figure there.
I'm sorry, I didn't calculate a per household amount.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay.
Well, the one thing we need to remember too is this helps our cash position when we get to the point of construction. So if you don't do anything, you get the $8 increase, and then we get to pay interest on monies that we have to borrow. And it's over these next few years, if we can tuck away $35,000 over the next couple of years, that's just more cash that we can spend towards a project that keeps us from borrowing. So it's actually cheaper than looking at interest that you have to look at paying later.
Well, you know, it's kind of frustrating. I go back. That's the trouble of having an old timer around. I go back, and Jack will remember well when CCUA, when they decided to bring Bel Air on, you know, we were given this big meeting and stuff, and we were told how bringing all these people in, we were actually going to decrease our rates. Well, we bought into that. But since then, the rates have just went up and up and up. And those promises were made, but the gifts weren't presented. The rates just keep going up when we were told they would probably go down. And I remember that meeting well, and I think Jack does too. We were told they were, with this CCUA, that our rates is going down, and they've just, but so be it.
I mean, it's
I know, Ray.
The beast.
I know.
And then the other part of it too is our rates probably are cheaper with them on. I mean, as the treasurer, you know what the electric bill is at CCUA.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine if we were on hook for the whole thing.
I know. Allow me a little frustration.
I'm with you. I'm with
Okay.
you. It's you know, unfortunately, yeah. Ben?
Sure, and I'm just asking more for a point of clarification. So we're talking about, 2021, when we look at having to build a new sewer plant there, the cost of, and how do we get the $8 figure, and where's that coming from? I'm just asking for knowledge sake.
That's what we're looking at the total cost of plant expansion and our part to pay for the debt service that we would take on for the plant expansion.
And it's based upon our current numbers of
yes.
citizens. Okay, perfect. I just wanted to know where we were getting that.
Jack?
Something that we might want to, you might want to look at is that several years ago, the council created a plant equity fee. And what that was is everybody hooking onto the system are buying into the plant. In other words, when we do a plant, we plan it for 20 years out. And so people coming in after we do the improvement hasn't paid a dime, why the residents have been paying on it all along. And so the theory there was that we do a plant equity fee, and when somebody buys a new house, they pay it, and then that money goes to the CCUA to help pay the debt service on the old debt that we have. And I think that you need to look at those numbers. It's several years old, 5 or 6 years old. At the time, I was pushing a higher number, but some people came in and convinced the council not to do that, even though we were a lot lower than other cities in this area as far as their hook-on fees are. So it might be something that you want to look at to kind of help soften the load that it would be on our current users. Just a thought, so.
Okay, John?
I may have missed this. Can you tell us when the last increase was on sewer, not necessarily water?
2017, and it was 2%.
And then prior to that, any idea?
I don't know prior to that.
No.
I mean, it's the nature of the beast. When you're looking at a deadline on being able to flush your toilets, it's either that or everybody gets porta potties outside, and we go back to some old days. But you know, we have to stay ahead of this, and we have to remember there are, you know, KDHE and you know other things that put requirements and things on top of us that just drive those costs up on what we have to do to make sure that we maintain a compliant water and sewer treatment plant. And I think a lot of people take for granted, you know, flushing the stool or turning on the faucet at your sink, and you don't realize what goes into it on the backside so that that can happen for you. So, you know, just recently, I think Brandy went and participated in a tour at the plant this Saturday and spent a couple of hours out there getting through the process of what that goes on. And I highly suggest that all members of the council should be out there and walk through a plant tour and see what goes on behind there. But, you know, it doesn't just happen miraculously where we get water at the kitchen sink. So.
Also, if I might, Mr. Mayor, the state and the EPA continually add requirements to communities to add things to their plant, which are very costly. And unfortunately, you want to get bigger as a city because of the property tax and stuff, but that also throws you into different categories with the EPA and the state and what their requirements are. So that's part of the overall picture, is making sure that we meet those standards when we do. And where they get you is when you have to enlarge your plant. That's when they stick you with all the new requirements as well. So.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 8-0. Thank you, Dee and Jack. That brings us to item H, which is considering agreement with KDOT for replacement of the 61st Street Bridge over Chisholm Creek. Jack?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Those of you that were here when we worked on 53rd Street, this should look fairly familiar with you. This is a standard contract that KDOT requires us to sign with them. Basically, it gives KDOT a lot of authority over the project and allows them to blame us if the residents get upset about things. That's the way it typically works. But anyway, this is something that we have to agree to if we want the over $4 million that they're going to help fund us on the bridge. So,
Tom?
I'm going to make a motion that we approve this.
And John?
I'll second it, and I just wanted to ask Jack a question. Kind of one of my big things on this bridge that I've talked about for quite a while on the council is ensuring that we have walking paths on both sides with nice aesthetically pleasing lighting in that area to kind of go along with the area that we've cleaned up on 61st Street. And I just want to make sure that I know you're going to be gone, but
yeah,
that's continuously reiterated to KDOT or the planners or whatever that is, because as people come into Park City, that bridge is right in your face.
Now, I think you've always heard about the bridge that goes nowhere. Well, we're going to have a sidewalk that kind of goes nowhere, but we're going to have a walking path on the south side of the bridge. There's no path beyond that to the west, but that's something that may come up in our sidewalk plan. On the north side of the bridge, it's going to be a bike path, a walking path and a bike path, and it will connect up to a standard walking path on the other side. There will be new lights on the bridge because KDOT said they don't want to pay for those lights anymore. And so it's all going to be on Park City to pay for the electricity for those lights. So we're gonna pay for the electricity, we're gonna have some decent lights on the bridge. They'll probably be LED, in fact, so.
Is this something that the designer, KDOT's designer, or our people who?
Our designer put that in. It's supposed to have I told him I wanted something very pleasing on the bridge as far as a handrail is concerned. A lot of these bridges just have the old concrete type handrails. This will be decorative iron.
Good. Thank you.
Jack, can you just send the council the design plans for that once we get it?
Excuse me?
Can you send everybody on the council the design plans for the bridge?
It's that thick.
Just take out the photograph.
Oh, okay.
And send
it. It's going to be difficult for you to understand it, but I'll see what I can find to do that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 8-0. That brings us to item I, which is consider a second amendment to the real estate purchase agreement with Kenneth Burke dated September 19th, 2018. Jack?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What has necessitated this, there was a couple of items that have came about as a result of some situations that the CCUA have been at least indicated they're concerned with, and so Mr. Burke wanted an extension because he's kind of concerned about the resolution of these couple of items that have cropped up, and he doesn't want to pull out of the deal, but he feels like they need a little bit more time to maybe get these two items resolved somehow. So he's asking for an extension to the contract.
Part of the reason for that extension too is the CCUA is meeting and we're covering a couple of these items. So that need to be pushed back till after the CCUA once we meet and talk through a couple of these issues. If he need enough time that we could get through the CCUA first. George?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the Second Amendment to purchase contract for the sale of the city maintenance shop located at 200 East 53rd Street North, Park City, Kansas, 67219.
John?
So the amendment is, I'm sorry, I'm just not quite clear on that.
You just want a second for discussion?
No, because I don't know what it is.
Okay. Somebody else want a second for discussion? Jim?
I'll second for discussion.
All right, go ahead, John.
Can you tell me what exactly the amendment, some more details?
Jack, you want to give him the dates on that?
That's correct. The only change in this is an amendment which extends 30 days on the due diligence period that Mr. Burke has, and then 30 days on the closing, which is 30 days after the due diligence ends. So it's just a time skip of 30 days.
That's what I was meaning. Thank you.
All right. We got a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 8-0. That brings us to item J, which is discuss proposed policy concerning alterations to the roadway ditches. Jack.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has came up that several residents have acquired, to me anyway, that they'd like to look at filling their ditches. These are areas that have ditches in front of their houses. We have allowed residents under our scrutiny put things into the ditch that allow for the drainage and does not block the drainage. It's still an open ditch. You know, they might put a concrete channel with a frame on it and some things like that, but it doesn't restrict the water going into the ditch. Now, when you put a pipe in the ditch, okay, you have to allow water into that pipe somehow, some way. I designed the policy such that they need to really get a consulting engineer, civil engineer, to look at how much drainage their lot produces and how big an area in those pipes, inlets, so to speak, must be in that pipe to allow that drainage to get in the pipe. Because if you don't have a proper opening, the water's going to spill out on the street and it's going to end up damaging your road and everything. Also, there's what we call cleaning velocity. That's the slope of the pipe such that sediment won't end up filling in the pipe. That's very critical too. And an engineer is able to calculate that and also be able to tell you how many openings in that pipe and how big they need to be in order to let the water in. If you start allowing this, you have to be extremely careful because you could end up causing havoc in the neighborhood. Now, we have one situation. A gentleman came to a meeting several years ago, and we talked something about this, and for some reason he thought that the council had said, okay, he could do it. Well, we'd get a call, said, hey, guy put some pipe in his ditch and stuff. So we go out there, and he already had some very expensive pipe in the ditch. He already had some inlets in it, well, basically, he's got it in there. He still has to do some sodding and stuff. But I think that without having him tear it out and everything, we'd give you an opportunity to decide whether or not you want to allow this type of operation. Like I say, it needs to be done right, because if it isn't, you can cause more problems. And then also, if you read the policy, after they get this done, they have to sod it, not seed it, but sod it. This particular individual did not sod his, and he's got a muddy situation there that's going to have to be taken care of. So I think that Doug may put some input in there. That I just threw this as a policy. It may need to be an ordinance of some sort or whatever. And if somebody fails to do this, there might be a penalty involved or something. So just threw this out primarily for discussion, or if you want to keep looking at it for the future.
Okay, Jim?
I read through this, Jack. I can see this being an issue, and it's always the biggest issue for the next house downstream.
Yes.
And it becomes a really big issue for them. So I'm kind of, I support putting in place at least a policy to follow like this. And I track with everything you're saying here. Yeah, it makes pretty good sense to me. My question would be how to treat people that have already partially put in ditches, or I can think of some open ditches, 2 or 3 open ditches where they walled up a canal and a channel, but didn't cover it. And I think it's good that these are being covered. So those old ones do you think we grandfather in those old ones? Do we say, no, they need to get a cover on those, and then who bears the cost of that, I guess is my line of thinking.
We had found another one like that, and we instructed them to put a grate over it.
Okay.
Because what we're concerned with, kids tend to run in front yards and stuff, and the kid's leg fell into that, they could break their leg or something. And so, since it's our right of way, we issued an order for them to to put a grate on it. And we know of one other case up in Bear Hill where that needs to happen, and we need to issue that letter. We just haven't had a chance to do that yet.
Okay, that's why I may get asked on it, so I wanted to make sure I understood it. But yeah, that's the obvious thing. There's probably some liability that's been incurred by the homeowner for a long time.
But what needs to be understood, though, that, you know, there's two parts. One is the open ditch, and we want to make sure they don't put stuff in the open ditch that high flow of water will take down the system and plug up the pipe somewhere. I think Tom knows of one case where we had to go in and actually remove some of this material because the water flow was such that it actually was starting to clog a pipe system up. So.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Tom?
Well, I'd like to say that this was originally brought to the city by me because of two people down in my area that were interested in doing the ditches. One of the things we looked at was elevations. You got to have the right elevation in there. If you put it in at the correct elevation, the dirt on both ends of your yard may be higher. City hasn't maintained the ditches, so the proper elevation for drainage that was originally set up by the county down in our area is not there. I think that's evident in one guy over on another street that's put it in. He's got dirt 5 or 6 inches higher on the drainage side of it. And I think it's higher going into it too. So eventually his will have to be half full of dirt unless something's done with it. When Jack and I talked about it originally for these two people, we said that it needed to start at the top of the street and go as far as people would take it. And there was not enough interest at that time to do the ditches. You couldn't get the first house on the block to do it, so the second and third guy couldn't do it. I recommend that you pull a little group together to look at this and see what we want to do with it. It's not a bad idea, but it needs to be done right because like Jack said, it's going to create a real problem. I could go lay some concrete pipe in my ditch and cover it up, and it'd be probably 10 inches too high. If you go in there and cut it back to the elevation it belongs, then you need to drop that pipe down about 1 foot. Then it creates a problem for the neighbor upstream from me. It creates a problem for me, and it could potentially create a problem for downstream in streets. So it really needs to be looked at.
Okay. George?
Well, I see a problem with the public just putting stuff in the city's ditches. I assumed they would have to draw a permit, and our inspector would supervise that. I would assume that's the way it is.
Yeah, the policy as written requires a civil engineer to design the system so we don't have those problems. They have to look at the elevation from one culvert to the other to make sure that they have the proper slope for cleansing velocity for the pipe. They have to design what size pipe. They also have to design what size inlets to let the water in from the lots and how they do that. So that's why I got the civil engineering involved, because like Tom was saying, somebody needs to kind of supervise the situation. And the civil engineer's job in this particular case is to make sure that they are telling us the proper way to do that at that particular location.
Well, I was thinking about that. I don't live in an area where that would be applicable, but if there was a ditch in front of mine, I wouldn't know the first thing about putting thing in it, and I would think there'd have to be some strong guidelines for that.
Yeah, that's why I put the civil engineer in there, that they have to hire a civil engineer to do that. And that in and of itself may stop a lot of people wanting to do it because there will be a cost involved. But I don't think that the city should take that risk of just letting people put pipes in the ditch without a professional engineer.
Well, I don't either.
Ben?
Sure. I mean, I'd like to see us, I don't know, I mean, the feasibility of looking at an ordinance and something like this, because back when I lived in Wichita, I lived in an old house, and the neighbors behind us had changed their elevation to their backyard, so my yard, every time it rained, became a swamp. And it was all because of poor irrigation and poor building around that. So if we get into this issue of building ditches, not having ditches, you're just going to create a mess for people in our city. So I know Jack talked about the policy, but is there a feasibility and an option there to look at making it something like an ordinance there?
So I think the one thing we just need to look at is this was for discussion to get the feel of the council, and this is just a policy that's got some rough guidelines on what we want. It does need to be put in place in an ordinance if that's something the council wishes to do. Tom's brought up maybe having a committee formed that he wanted to lead. And that would probably be a wise idea. But the one thing we have to remember, and probably, 18 months ago, I think several council members and myself were plagued with a bunch of drainage issues, and we're getting phone calls and going out on a regular basis. And then we did have this one individual that just decided to put some pipe in, cover his up, and he created more problems. And thank goodness he's at the end of the system, because if he would have been at the beginning, he would have screwed it all up. The other thing, some of these areas where we do have ditches, it was to save on specials, so you didn't have the curb and guttering. So that cost does need to go back to the homeowner should they choose to do improvements on their lot, but they need to do it in such a way that it doesn't impact neighbors on either side. So I would agree with Tom that he should probably lead a group of some people to take this policy and see how we craft it into an ordinance. Tom?
Well, I just have one comment, and I know that the people that have done this are trying to improve the front of their house. They're dealing with, like you said, there should have been pipe put in the ground to start with, or some kind of a drainage issue worked. And there's water there all the time, and what they're trying to do is move that water. But it needs to be controlled. It needs to be something approved by the city so that it doesn't affect everybody in the neighborhood. I know when Jack looked at that, originally we were talking about going in and doing it, the city doing it. And I think that the cost at the time scared the two individuals off that approached me. They were looking at plastic pipe, and Jack was talking concrete pipe. The plastic pipe will float. So you can't get it anchored well enough without having 2 or 3 feet of dirt over it. So, and then you've got different driveways that have different size pipe in them, and just got to size it all up. There's a lot of issues down through 1 or 2 blocks that would you'd be trying to carry the water through. So anyway, I'm done.
Let's kind of do this and just start with no action here. Tom, you and I will work together. We'll probably bring in Stormwater Drainage Committee. I don't know if Dana has sent out an email yet, but we will get an email out this week. I want to do the stormwater drainage just as we did the PBC, where we have a representative from each ward, and I will ask the council members in that ward to bring somebody that wants to represent that. So we already have 2 members on that board, so we'll get an email out this week to the council members that we need you to reach out people within your ward and bring us somebody that we can appoint to stormwater drainage.
In addition to the 2 that are already on there?
No, we'll send an email only to the wards that are not represented.
Thank you, sorry.
You're good. So with that, we'll start the discussion. Tom will move forward on this.
Okay.
And this will bring us to item K, which is consider bids for the water improvements in High Ridge, 2nd edition, phase 4. Jack?
Thank you. Seems like this is my agenda or something. I don't know. Seems like every issue. We took bids on phase 4, High Ridge. If you go down hydraulic, just past Ravenna, there's a road going back to the east. If you follow that road back to the east, it dead ends. What this will do, we'll put in a water system into the area unimproved. Now, they will be coming back in a few weeks with a bid on the paving, and the paving will pick up where it ends and curve around. It's called Terrytown Street Court, and it will tie in to Ravenna. So it will complete that street system. But this is for the water lines for that system. The sewer is already into those lots, so there's no need for sewer. So only thing needed is this water project and a street project, which will come back to you in a couple of weeks. The low responsible bidder in this case was Nowak Construction for $40,941. As you can see, there's several within the $2,000 or $3,000 difference in there, so I think we got a good bid.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Ben?
Have we done business before with Nowak?
Yes, they've done several projects here.
Okay, I'd go ahead and make a recommendation or a motion here that we approve the lowest bid from Nowak in $40,941 for the water improvements in High Ridge 2, second edition, phase 4, sorry.
Okay. And George?
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 8-0. That brings us to item L, which is consider bids for water and sewer improvements in Echo Hills, second edition, phase 1. Jack?
This particular project is servicing water and sewer to the new Atwoods building. They're needing it to be done fairly quickly. So you won't see the bid tab in your packet because we took bids today, but to help move the project along because Atwoods is getting real concerned about getting water and sewer there. The low bidder in this particular case was McCulloch for $70,866, and McCulloch has done a lot of work in Park City also.
Can you just read us the high bid on that too?
Okay, the high bid, it was Meese Construction at $97,965.
I just want everybody to get a perspective on between the high and the low. Jim?
Well, I want Atwoods to have water, so I would move that we approve the lowest bid, which was $70,866 to McCulloch for the water and sewer improvements in Echo Hills second edition, phase 1.
Okay, John?
Second.
Tom, did you have anything? Nope. Okay, we got a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 8-0. That brings us to item N, which is considered a confirmation of the committee's recommendation of WSP as the construction inspector for the 61st Street Bridge over Chisholm Creek. Jack?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. KDOT defined a procedure that we had to follow as far as the selection of the inspector. We had a 5-member committee, 2 council members and 3 staff people. We had 6 engineering firms that answered to our RFP and submitted proposals to us. The committee reviewed those and came up with WSP as the selected construction inspector that they would like to recommend to you. Now, if you approve this, the next step then, KDOT will come back sometime between now and May the 22nd and figure the number of construction days. They will give this to WSP to determine a fee schedule for the project, okay? They will present the fee schedule not only to the city, but also to WSP, to the state. They'll review it. If they feel like that it's excessive and they can't get it within limits, then we will revert to the second firm that the committee selected. But this will come back to you. This allows us to present this officially to KDOT, so they'll work with WSP to get a fee schedule. When that will happen, I don't know. It's got to be sometime between now and May 22nd when they take bids for the project. But you will see this back to you.
Yeah, and this was the one that Melvin jumped in there on in our last meeting.
Yeah, Melvin did a good job, by the way.
George?
WSP is an acronym for what?
WSP.
It's an acronym for what?
WSP.
What does the W and the S and the P stand for?
Just their business name.
It's just their business name.
company name. is
It probably has some other meaning, but I've always seen it on their,
It looks like an acronym to me.
it may be.
Probably
George.
got some owners' names in that, probably.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure they do. That's why I was asking.
On their letterhead, and everything I've ever seen, it just says WSB. They
Okay.
used to be Parsons Brinckerhoff at one point, and then WSP bought them out. And they're one of the largest engineering firms in America. So,
That was their submittal.
Thank you, Jack.
but you're probably right, George. It is probably an acronym. I just don't know what it is. I never thought about asking them what WSB meant. So I can try to find out for you, though.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, Jim?
Melvin and I served on this, and so I had the ability to go through them all, and yeah, this was the group that was already working on the project and already had knowledge on it. I mean, there was a lot of good inspection companies. This one barely outweighed the rest of them just because they already had knowledge of it. That was my opinion and how
I was just curious.
Yeah, but I just wanted to share what I saw, and because of that, I would move that we would approve the confirmation of the committee's recommendation selection of WSEP as the construction inspector for the 61st Street Bridge over Chisholm Creek.
Okay, Ben?
Sure, I'd like to second that just real quick for discussion and really just a point there. Hey, George, I did check out the WSP website and it just says the WSP. That is all their website says. So I'm going to go with that. And I'd also like to thank my next seat neighbor for graciously volunteering to serve on that committee.
Wow. We appreciate you, Melvin. All right, we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 8-0. The next item on the agenda is consider requesting K.E. Miller Engineering to provide fees to perform a study and provide a cost estimate for Old Lawrence Road issues. Jack.
If you look at your monitors, I'm going to show you some pictures that should bring tears to your eyes. Not really, but a serious problem that I see developing there. If you're familiar with Old Lawrence Road, that's the road that kind of skirts the big high bridge on Broadway. It's on the east side, and I'm going to show you some pictures and show you some problems. In the first picture, I'm going to blow that up a little bit. You see, I'm going to get me a pencil here. And from there to over to here, that's supposed to be grass. And what's happening is that people that are driving in this direction, okay, can't easily pull out onto Broadway. You can imagine if you're driving that and you're parallel with Broadway, looking back like this, trying to see traffic, it's a very dangerous situation. So what they're doing is pulling up like this. Something needs to be done there. It's just dirt and mud right now. Just a second here, if I can go on to the next one. Why isn't it not moving here? Okay, here's a standard 18-wheeler that travels this road. If you look and see the distance from the wheels to the edge of the road, here again, the edge of the road is right here to right there. Imagine two of these coming on each other, or one of those in a car. You just can't pass. So what you have to do is come over here on the shoulder in order for the two to pass. So it's not a wide enough road. Typical roads, even small roads like 61st, it's 26 foot wide. This is about 20, 21 foot in spots. Okay, here you can see where people have been driving. I'll just circle that. They have to get off the road in order to pass. Part of the problem is, and this goes all the way the full length, you'll see ponds of water. Now, we have went year after year and tried to fill these holes these trucks create. And some of them are about that deep. And you can imagine a car traveling at a reasonable amount of speed, 15, 20 miles an hour, passing and getting over into the shoulder and hit one of those holes, it's going to flip them out of the right-of-way. It's a very dangerous situation. We just recently put gravel and stuff in there, what, maybe a month ago? About a month ago, and it's already almost out. Have to be done again. And it's a lot of work, because this is almost a half a mile of roadway here that we're talking about. Here again, you can see some of the holes that are created. There's another problem there. Some guy has a little concrete company at one end there, and he has encroached actually out to the edge of the road. So we're going to have to deal with that issue because he's actually encroaching in our right-of-way. Part of the main problems with all of this is that United Warehouse is picking up business. Midwest Scrap down at 45th and I-135 there, they're doubling their capacity now, and so more and more vehicles are coming up this road. Plus, if you've been down that way and looked at Kansas Paving, they have added a tremendous amount of stuff along the edge of this road, and they're actually coming out on this. I think that we need to have Kurt Miller take a look at that and see what maybe possible options we have to eliminate this. I had thought, well, we could add a little extra width, maybe on one side, but I don't know that necessarily the answer, because the road may need to be dealt with at the end where these people are having to turn and to get visual. You may have to put an intersection there or something. I don't suggest just going and doing something right now, but I think you need a cost to know what it would do and get his suggestions as to what might need to be done there and give you a cost so you can do some planning. This may have to be a bond issue type thing, or maybe he may come up with some solution that we might be able to handle it within our budget limitations. Just don't know until somebody looks at it. So this is my suggestion. Since I'm leaving next week, you're going to have somebody to do it. And I think Kurt's familiar with the town, and I took him down there and looked at this. So I think he could probably perform those services for you, if you so desire.
All right, George.
I move to approve requesting K.E. Miller Engineering to provide fees to perform a study and provide a cost estimate for the Old Lawrence Road issues.
Melvin.
I'll second that for discussion. Are we just going from Broadway to 45th on that, right?
Yes.
Okay. And are they going to try to carry that on down south then?
That's Wichita.
Well, I mean, have you talked to them about doing anything, or? Well, I'm sure
Wichita,
we got major issues there because that's a brick
Wichita
road.
replaced a bridge, you know. Once you get past 45th, that's Wichita's problem. Most of the traffic is coming down 45th, not necessarily coming up from Wichita, but actually coming from United Warehouse and Midwest. Now, just throwing this out, I don't know that this is a possibility. Doug may have to look into it. I have worked on projects that we can assess the improvements to properties within a certain distance of the roadway. Without their consent, we can assess it to them. But Doug would probably have to look into that. I think Wichita does that sometimes. I know we did it for the lights where Quick Trip was, and we assessed that to all those businesses there for the improvements for those lights. But there's probably some limitations state statute-wise that would have to be looked into, but that might be a source of some funds.
Yeah. Did I see a little bridge in there too, or? Is there a little pillar up?
There is a culvert that goes across, and if it's widened, that culvert's gonna have to be extended.
Okay.
And Old Lawrence is really standing up fairly good because it's brick
Yeah.
underneath the asphalt. And some of the asphalt is popping off so you can see the brick. But it's something that we're going to have to deal with, I think.
So with your experience there, what's underneath brick there, brick roads like that? Is there anything or?
Rock. Well, they built a good base because.
Did they? Okay.
Yes, that road is holding up pretty good for.
Yeah.
It was probably.
The weight of the traffic, yeah.
Yeah.
Late 1800s when that road was put in.
Of course, maybe we can
buggy.
have Kansas Paving throw in some cement on that.
Yeah.
Since they're right there. So,
Yeah.
anyway. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, they call us when there's a lot of holes and stuff. They let us know that we need to get down there and fix it.
Well, can't they do like 81 Speedway with their excessive cement, just dump it in the holes there and parking lot?
All right, we got a motion and a second. Not seeing, Tom,
I need to abstain on this, so I will be.
not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstain.
Abstention.
And that passes 701. That brings us to item O, which is consider the approval of WSP contract for biannual bridge inspection. Jack.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The feds, along with the state, well, the feds tell the state that we have to inspect all our bridges at least every 2 years to make sure there's safety. It's our 2 years are up. WSP has been inspecting them for 23 years, at least since I've been there, doing our biannual bridge inspection. So I recommend that we continue since they are familiar with all our bridges and are really ready to start those safety inspections.
John.
I'll make a motion that we approve WSP for the amount of $4,921.
Okay, Jim?
I'd second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 8-0. That brings us to the end of the meeting, and this is where we really need to celebrate Jack and the work that he's done for the city. So I thought it would be fitting that we wait until the end of the meeting. We've got something to present to Jack, and I'd also like to make sure that we get a picture with all the council and Jack here this evening before we all leave. But Jack, you created this. Seriously, you did. You and several other hardworking people. George was a part of this city, bringing it where it is today. But we would not be here without you and the dedication and the hard work that you've done towards this city. So for the remainder of this month, we really get to celebrate Jack Whitson and all the work that he's done. And we'd like to present him with this. So we have a fantastic picture that we have. We just want to express our gratitude to you. We got the coin in here from the building, and we just appreciate it. Let's get everybody down here. Let's get up here, get all of them, yeah. And then council stay here, and then we'll let the council get out of the way. Everybody, and then we'll get one.
You're on the photography committee now.
I like to stand behind us.
I don't know.
Pleasure, Mayor.
We can't thank you enough. We look forward to still working with you.
It's been a pleasure working with you. At least I haven't yelled at you Thank you again.
Thank you.
So everybody, just so everybody knows, we'll be having a retirement party for Jack. Those invitations will be coming out shortly, so we can all get together and continue to celebrate Jack and all the work that he's done here. We don't want you to go unappreciated, and we wanted to make sure you are extremely that you know how much that we all appreciate everything you've done for us. So, with that, now let's Jim. You got any comments?
My only closing remark is just congratulate Jack also on, but I'm not saying goodbye because I want to hear about the fishing stories.
All right, Brandy.
Again, I just want to say congratulations, Jack, and I'll be waiting to hear what you're buying and how much extra money you're spending.
George.
Well, let's say congratulations to Jack, but I want to say something to the employees of this city and public employees everywhere. You know, we have a newly elected governor, and her first official act was to go right after our pension fund. And her deal to solve the budget was to borrow the money from Capers. Well, we had another governor named Brownback. He done the same thing. They keep wanting to mess with our fund. And, you know, the politicians need to keep their meat hooks off the public employees' money. That's our money. We paid it in. It doesn't belong to the state, and the legislature needs to leave it alone. And I think we ought to let our legislatures know that they need to keep their meat hooks off Capers. That's all I have.
We really needed you to be the end so you could do the mic drop, because you nailed it. You nailed it.
Well,
you were absolutely right.
They need to leave it alone.
Tom?
At federal level too.
Amen.
I want to thank Jack. Like I said, I could talk for an hour about different things that have gone on since I've known Jack, but I won't. I had a couple things I wrote down here that I wanted to bring up, and one is that we're going to do the flag branding on the 4th?
No, 16th.
On the which?
16th.
16th? Okay. So I'm early. I thought it was before the next council meeting.
It's the pedestrian sidewalk.
Oh, there's pedestrian sidewalks is on the 4th. Okay. And that's up here?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to let the public know, so, okay. The hiring of the new administrator that we're going to be looking at, will we be having a special meeting to kind of discuss some of these issues or the person before we have it at a regular meeting?
At this point, there is interviews that will be conducted in the first week of February.
Okay.
That group it's been narrowed down to 3 candidates. Hopefully at that point, your panel will have somebody selected for you, and then the plan was by the second meeting in February to bring somebody forward to you.
I would hope that the council would have an opportunity to meet and discuss some of the items that are being reviewed and the process before we have a meeting to vote on it.
Okay.
And if that takes a special council meeting, I'd support it. So I think it's unfair to the council. It's also unfair to the people that are being considered just to do it up here one night and 5 minutes you vote on somebody and they're in. So I'd like to have a little more than that. Jack's leaving. It's my understanding he can't really have much to do with the city for about 60 days. And we have 2 road projects that are in line with the bridge and West 61st Street. Who's monitoring that? Who's going to take care of it? So just a heads up, there could be some activity coming out of the MPO. Okay. Well, there could be some activity coming out of WAMPO and stuff with the process, and they're getting ready to start a new long-term plan, and they're going to be looking at updates and stuff. So I don't know how we're going to handle that. So just kind of want to give everybody a heads up that we need to have somebody looking at it. Okay. That's all I got tonight.
All I got is thank you, Jack, and congratulations.
Ben?
Sure, just want to say thank you, Jack, again, and then I do need to find some of those barbecue joints that you have. Let me know a list. And then as
No secret.
Tom mentioned there, February 16th is the flag reveal. Looking forward to that. It's going to be a great time. So that'll be from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock there. I believe we have, is it Piper Lee? We'll be playing out here, and we'll have all sorts of activities going on. So come on out. That's February the 16th from 4 to 6. Really excited about what's in store on that side there.
George?
Yeah, just to, also, Jack, thanks for all the hard work that you've done. You've really helped me a lot. Our selection committee on the city administrator, again, that's coming up the first week in February, as the mayor indicated. We've got 3 outstanding candidates for that position. Each one of them brings a skill set that the city can use, but also to carry us on down the road and add on to maybe what Jack has done. So we're really excited about that and doing the interviews. So those will be coming up, and hopefully we'll have a new city administrator pretty soon. Thank you.
John?
Well, Jack, 552 is the number in 23 years, but I can think you've probably missed 2 since I've been here. Probably about it. So 550, we'll give you credit for that. Again, thank you. Echo what everybody else said, but thanks for what you've done for Park City, where we're at because of you. So thank you very much. That's all I have. Unless someone else has something, I would make a motion we adjourn.
All right, Ben?
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 8-0. Thank you.
Guys, we need to take some pictures. It was too cold, but it's warm enough now.
Okay, we can do that.
Again.